In the hush of an ordinary evening, when the last light leans gently against the window and the world grows quiet enough to hear the hidden ache within the heart, there is a question that rises like a whisper from the soul. A question many carry but few dare to speak aloud. Why this family? Why these faces, these wounds, these voices that both comfort and unsettle me? Why this place where love and pain seem to share the same table? And in that silence, where memories stir like shadows along the walls of the heart, God does not answer with thunder, but with a flame, small, steady, and alive. You were not placed here by accident. No soul is born into randomness. No life is assigned without divine intention. Before your first breath, before your name was spoken on earth, you were already known in heaven. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, Jeremiah 1-5. And that knowing was not distant, it was intimate, deliberate, filled with a love that sees beyond time. And so the family you were given is not merely a circumstance. It is a calling. There is a mystery here, one that the modern world often resists. We are told we should choose everything, our path, our identity, our belonging. Yet the most defining relationships of our lives are given, not chosen. You did not choose your mother. You did not select your father. You did not design your childhood. And still, God did. The flame begins to flicker here in this truth. What you did not choose, God entrusted. And what he entrusts is never meaningless. There are souls who carry wounds from their families, deep wounds, silent wounds, wounds that bleed into every relationship that follows. There are those who feel unseen, unheard, unloved. There are those who grew up in homes where peace was fragile, where love was inconsistent, where words could wound more deeply than silence. And so the question becomes heavier, almost unbearable. Why would God place me here? But listen carefully, beloved soul. God does not waste suffering. He does not author evil, but he enters into it. He does not will brokenness, but he redeems it. The cross was not the end of Christ's story. It was the doorway through which resurrection entered the world. And so too, your family, yes, even with its imperfections, its fractures, its quiet griefs, is a place where redemption is meant to unfold. Not easily, not quickly, but truly, there is a hidden vocation in every family. Not always visible, not always understood, but real. Some are called to be the ones who forgive first. Some are called to be the ones who break generational chains. Some are called to carry the light when others cannot yet see. And perhaps this is where your heart begins to tremble, because deep within you, there is a knowing, a quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, you were placed here not only to receive love, but to become it. The flame grows warmer. You see, holiness is not forged in comfort alone. It is shaped in the friction of daily life, in the misunderstandings, in the patience required, in the decision to love when it is not returned in the way you hoped. Your family is not simply a backdrop to your life. It is an altar where sacrifice is offered, where pride is surrendered, where mercy is learned slowly, painfully, and beautifully. It is where the raw material of your humanity meets the transforming grace of God. And this is why the world struggles to understand it, because the world seeks escape when things become difficult. It seeks to redefine, to detach, to run. But Christ, he enters, he remains, he redeems. Even in Nazareth, the Son of God chose to grow within a family. Think of this. The creator of the universe spent years in hidden obedience, honoring Mary, listening to Joseph, living within the ordinary rhythms of family life. And if he chose it, then it must be sacred. There is something in your family that is meant to shape your soul in a way no other place could. Something that reveals both your wounds and your capacity for grace. Something that calls you out of yourself and into a deeper love. But here is the truth no one tells you. Your family will not always understand you. They may not see what God is doing in your life. They may misunderstand your silence, your prayer, your longing for something more. They may even resist the very transformation God is working within you. And still, you are called to love, not with a love that is weak or passive, but with a love that is rooted in Christ, a love that speaks truth gently, that forgives without keeping score, that prays when words fail. Because sometimes the greatest mission field is not across the world, it is across the dinner table. And sometimes the deepest act of evangelization is not preaching, it is patience. The flame now burns steadily. There will be moments when you feel exhausted, moments when the weight of it all presses against your heart, moments when you wonder if anything is changing, if your efforts matter, if your quiet acts of love are seen. They are. Nothing offered in love is ever lost. Every prayer whispered in the night, every act of restraint, every choice to forgive instead of retaliate, it is all gathered by God. It is all part of a greater work, one you may not fully see in this life. But heaven sees, and heaven rejoices. There is also this mystery one that unfolds slowly, like dawn breaking over a restless night. Your family is not only where you learn love, it is where you learn who you are. Because it is within these relationships that your virtues are tested, your wounds are revealed, and your dependence on God becomes real. It is here that you begin to understand that you cannot become holy by your own strength. You need grace, and grace flows most abundantly where humility is born. So when you feel the tension, when you feel the ache, when you feel the longing for something more peaceful, more perfect, do not turn away too quickly. Pause. Let the flame guide you. Ask not only, why is my family like this? But also, Lord, who are you calling me to become within it? Because that is where the transformation begins. Not in changing others first, but in allowing God to change you. And yet, this is not a call to remain in harm or injustice. The church, in her wisdom, recognizes the dignity of every person and the necessity of boundaries where there is true harm. Love does not mean enabling sin. Mercy does not mean accepting abuse. Even Christ withdrew at times. Even he walked away when hearts were hardened beyond the moment. So discernment is needed. Prayer is needed. The guidance of the Holy Spirit is needed. But wherever you are called to remain, remain with purpose. Remain with the awareness that your presence carries something sacred. That the way you listen, the way you speak, the way you forgive, these are not small things. They are seeds of eternity planted in the soil of ordinary life. And seeds, as you know, do not bloom overnight. They require patience. They require hidden growth. They require trust in what cannot yet be seen. The flame flickers once more, softer now, deeper. There is someone listening to these words who feels like the outsider in their own family, the one who does not quite belong, who sees differently, who longs for God in a way others do not understand. And you wonder, why me? Beloved, perhaps you are the bridge, the one through whom grace quietly enters, the one through whom a new story begins. Do not underestimate what God can do through a single faithful heart. The saints were not always surrounded by understanding. Many walked paths of solitude within their own homes, and yet their hidden fidelity became a light that could not be extinguished. So too with you. Even if no one notices, even if no one affirms, even if no one changes, you remain. You love, you pray. And in doing so, you become a living echo of Christ himself. But there is more. There is always more in the mystery of God, because your family is not only about your past, it is also about your future. The way you love here will shape the way you love others. The patience you learn here will extend into every relationship. The forgiveness you practice here will become a wellspring for the world around you. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is isolated. Everything is forming you. And so, as the night deepens and the flame continues to burn, I invite you into a deeper awareness, a sacred seeing. Look again at your family, not through the lens of frustration or disappointment, but through the eyes of faith. See the brokenness, yes, but also see the possibility of grace. See the wounds, but also see where healing longs to begin. See the imperfections, but also see where God is already at work, quietly, patiently, persistently, because he is, even now, even here. And perhaps tonight, before sleep takes you, you might do something simple, something small, yet profoundly powerful. Whisper a prayer for them, not a perfect prayer, just a real one. Lord, bless them, heal what I cannot heal, love them in ways I do not yet know how. And then rest. Rest in the knowledge that you are not alone in this calling. The Holy Family walks with you. Mary, who pondered all things in her heart. Joseph, who carried silent strength. Jesus, who sanctified the ordinary. They understand, they intercede, they accompany you. And the flame, it does not go out. It remains waiting, guiding, inviting you deeper still. For this is only the beginning of the mystery. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world has not yet remembered its noise, there is a stillness that presses gently upon the soul. A stillness where truth begins to rise, not loudly, not forcefully, but like a flame that has been waiting all night to be seen. And in that silence, your heart begins to remember. Not just the wounds, but the moments, the small, almost forgotten gestures, the laughter that once filled the room, the times when love appeared unexpectedly, like light slipping through a cracked door. Even in families marked by pain, there are traces of grace, fragments of heaven hidden within the ordinary. The flame flickers, revealing something deeper. Your family is not only the place of your trials, it is also the place of your first encounter with love, however imperfect it may have been. And this matters more than you realize. Because the way you first learned love, the way it was given, withheld, misunderstood, or broken, has shaped the way you now receive God himself. For many, God feels distant, not because he is far, but because the heart has been trained to expect distance. Trust feels fragile because trust was once broken. Intimacy feels unsafe because vulnerability was not protected. And so the soul stands at a threshold, longing for God, yet hesitant to approach. The flame grows steadier here, illuminating a sacred truth. God is not the reflection of your family's limitations. He is the healing of them. Can a mother forget her infant, be without tenderness for the child of her womb? Even should she forget, I will never forget you, Isaiah 49-15. Do you hear it? Even if human love failed, divine love does not. Even if your earthly family could not give you what you needed, your heavenly Father sees what was missing, and he comes not to condemn the absence, but to fill it. But here is where many turn away, because to receive that love requires trust. And trust is often the very thing that was wounded. So God does something extraordinary. He does not force himself upon the heart. He waits. He waits like a father standing at the edge of the road, watching for the return of the prodigal son. He waits with a patience that is almost unbearable in its tenderness. He waits not because he is distant, but because love never coerces. And in that waiting, the flame remains steady, faithful, unextinguished. There is a sacred interplay unfolding within you, a quiet struggle between the desire to be healed and the fear of being hurt again. And this struggle often surfaces most intensely within your family, because that is where the original wounds were formed. It is not a coincidence. It is a path, because God does not only heal in abstraction, he heals in reality, in the very places where pain once lived. And so when tension rises in your family, when old patterns resurface, when words are spoken that reopen wounds you thought had healed, it is not merely a setback. It is an invitation to bring that wound not back into isolation, but into the presence of God. And this is where the flame becomes something more. It becomes a light that reveals not only others, but you. There are reactions within you that you do not fully understand. Moments when anger rises faster than reason. Moments when silence becomes your shield. Moments when you retreat or defend or harden your heart, not because you want to, but because something deeper is protecting itself. Do not be afraid of this. Do not condemn yourself too quickly. These are not signs of failure. They are signs of wounded places asking to be healed. And healing, beloved, is not immediate. It is a journey. A sacred unfolding. Even Christ, in his earthly life, chose to reveal himself gradually. He did not heal every wound in a single moment. He walked with people. He listened. He restored them step by step, encounter by encounter. And so he does with you. But here is the deeper mystery, the one that transforms everything. As God heals you, he also sends you not away from your family, but back into it with a different heart. The same rooms, the same faces, the same history, but now a different presence. You begin to respond where you once reacted. You begin to listen where you once withdrew. You begin to forgive where you once held tightly to hurt. And this is not because the situation has changed. It is because grace has entered. The flame is no longer just something you see. It is something you carry. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something begins to shift. Not always in dramatic ways. Sometimes it is a single conversation that feels lighter than before. A moment of restraint where you would have spoken harshly. A quiet act of kindness that goes unnoticed, but not unseen by heaven. This is how God works. Quietly, faithfully, through the ordinary. There is also this truth, one that must be spoken gently, but clearly. You cannot heal your family by controlling them. You cannot force understanding. You cannot demand change. And this can feel like a kind of death, because part of the heart longs to fix everything, to restore what was broken, to make it all right. But love, true love, does not control. It offers, it witnesses, it remains faithful, even when it is not reciprocated. This is the love of Christ, and it is the love you are being invited into. But this love must be nourished. You cannot give what you do not receive. And so the Eucharist becomes essential, not as a ritual alone, but as a lifeline. Because in the Eucharist, you are not simply remembering Christ. You are receiving him. His patience becomes your patience. His mercy becomes your mercy. His love becomes the very substance of your soul. The bread that I will give is my flesh for the life of the world, John 6:51. Do not underestimate this. If your family feels heavy, go to the altar. If your heart feels weary, go to the altar. If you do not know how to love them anymore, go to the altar. Because there, the flame does not flicker. It burns with a divine intensity that can sustain you when nothing else can. And Mary, she walks with you in this. She who lived within the Holy Family, yet carried mysteries no one else could fully understand. She who held sorrow in her heart, even as she held the Son of God in her arms. She knows what it is to love within silence, to trust within confusion, to remain faithful when the path is not clear. So entrust your family to her. Speak their names softly in prayer. Place them in her immaculate heart, and trust that she will intercede in ways you cannot see. There is also a moment that comes often unexpectedly when you begin to see your family differently, not as obstacles, but as souls, souls who are also wounded, souls who are also searching, souls who may not know how to love because they themselves were never taught. And in that moment, something softens within you. Compassion begins to grow where judgment once lived. And this changes everything, because when you begin to see others as God sees them, you no longer relate to them only through your pain. You begin to love them through his. The flame now glows with a quiet strength. But do not misunderstand this journey. There will still be days when you struggle, days when old patterns return, days when you feel like nothing has changed at all. And in those moments, the enemy will whisper, it's useless. Nothing will ever be different. You are alone in this. But these are lies. You are not alone. And nothing done in love is ever wasted. Even when you cannot see the fruit, God is working beneath the surface. Just as roots grow unseen beneath the soil, preparing for a bloom that has not yet appeared, so too your faithfulness is preparing something, perhaps not for today, perhaps not even for tomorrow, but for a moment God has already seen. And so do not give up. Do not let weariness extinguish the flame. Protect it. Nurture it. Return to it in prayer, in silence, in the sacraments, because this flame is not only for you, it is for them. And now, as the first light of morning begins to stretch across the horizon, there is one more truth you must hear, one that rests quietly at the edge of your heart. There are things in your family story that only you can redeem, not because you are greater, but because you were chosen to stand where others could not, chosen to love where others struggled, chosen to begin something new. And this is not a burden. It is a grace, a hidden, sacred grace, but it requires your yes. A daily yes. A quiet